हम्म, दोनों हाँ. Good morning. Let's start today's discussion. So the first topic that we are taking for discussion today is regarding the solar eclipse. Fine. Just 2 days back, there is a solar eclipse. People in India were able to see a partial solar eclipse recently, and this is a geographical phenomenon. Okay, the movement of these planets and satellites in our solar system resulted in the solar eclipse. Okay, solar eclipse occurs when the moon is positioned between the sun and the earth for a few minutes. Okay, so one is called the solar eclipse, the other is the lunar eclipse. The eclipse affecting the sun is called solar eclipse or Surya Parag. It occurs when the moon, the satellite of earth, is positioned in between the sun and the earth. Okay, in between sun and the earth, the moon comes. Moon is positioned in between the sun and the earth for a few minutes. Under certain alignment, the moon partially or fully blocks the sunlight and instead casts its shadow on earth. This way, it blocks the sunlight from reaching the earth. That is known as solar eclipse or Surya Parag. Okay, under certain alignment, the moon partially or fully blocks the sun's light and instead casts its shadow on earth. Fine. That is why there can be partial or a total solar eclipse depending on how much portion of the sun's disk get hidden by the moon. Okay, so this is judged depending on how much portion of the sun disk get hidden by the moon. In a partial solar eclipse, only the edge of the moon's shadow fall on the northern hemisphere. That is called partial solar eclipse. Fine. So then discuss about the types of solar eclipses. There are 4 types of solar eclipses. How many types? 4 types of solar eclipses: total, annular, partial, hybrid. Total solar eclipse annular solar eclipse, partial solar eclipse, and hybrid solar eclipse. So let's discuss them one by one. Total solar eclipse, on average, a total eclipse occurs somewhere on Earth about every 18 months. Okay, Earth about every 18 months. That is total solar eclipse. The umbra is part of the shadow where all sunlight is blocked. That's called umbra. Sunlight is totally blocked. The umbra takes the shape of a dark cinder core. It is surrounded by the penumbra, a light funnel-shaped shadow from which sunlight is partially obscured. During a total solar eclipse, the moon's cast its umbra upon Earth's surface. We'll see a picture of this. The next slide. During brief period of totality, when the sun is completely covered, the beautiful corona, the tenuous outer atmosphere of the sun is revealed. Totality may last as long as 7 minutes 31 seconds, though most total eclipses are usually much shorter. For a total solar eclipse to occur, the sun, the moon, and earth must be in a direct line. For a total solar eclipse, the sun, the moon, and earth must be in a direct line. In that case, a total solar eclipse may take place. Fine. See, this is sun, the moon, and the earth. Okay, this is the picture. This visualizes. Then the parcel. So is it clear? Sun, the earth, this is the moon, and this is where the country is. So it is covered, not visible. Partial solar eclipse occur when only the penumbra, the partial shadow, passes over Earth. In this case, a part of the sun always remains in view during the eclipse. This happens when the sun, moon, and earth are not exactly aligned. They are not aligned like this. The sun appears to have a dark shadow on a small part of its surface. That is called partial solar eclipse. Fine. This picture of the partial solar eclipse. Fine. Then annular eclipse. An annular eclipse is far different from the total one. An annular eclipse happens when the moon is farthest from the sun. Because the moon is farther away, it seems smaller. It does not block the entire view of the sun. The moon in front of the sun looks like a dark disk on top of a larger sun-colored disk. This creates what looks like a ring around the moon. The annular eclipse is a subspecies of the partial eclipse, not the total eclipse. Okay. Then hybrid one. These are also called as annular total, 80 eclipse. This special type of eclipse occurs when the moon's distance is near its limit for the umbra to reach Earth. It is called a hybrid solar eclipse. Okay. In most cases, an hybrid eclipse starts as an annular eclipse because the tip of the umbra falls just short of making contact with the Earth. Then it becomes total because the roundness of the planet reaches off and intercepts the shadow tip near the middle of the path. Then finally returns to annular towards the end of the path. Because the moon appears to pass directly in front of the sun, total, annular, and hybrid eclipse are also called as central eclipse to distinguish them from eclipse that are merely partial. Fine. So this is the different types of eclipse. Okay. And their projection. And their projection. Fine. Then moving forward, of all solar eclipses, about 28% are total, 35% are partial, 32% annular, and just 5% are hybrid. This is about the solar eclipse. Fine. So then we'll go for the lunar eclipse. It's not only solar eclipse, there is also lunar eclipse. Eclipse of the moon is known as the lunar eclipse. The moon moves in an orbit around the earth. At the same time, earth also orbits the sun. That means moves moon moves around the earth and earth moves orbits the sun. Sometimes the earth moves between the sun and the moon. When this happens, earth blocks the sunlight that normally is reflected by the moon. So this is again what the situation. In this case, this is sun. So this is sun. This is moon. This is earth. It is lunar eclipse. In solar eclipse, this is sun. This is earth. This is moon. Fine. Sometimes earth moves between the sun and the moon. Yes. When this happens, earth blocks the sunlight that normally is reflected by the moon. The reflection of the sunlight by the moon is checked because the moon reflects the light of the sun, and when earth blocks this, so there is lunar eclipse. It is called as lunar eclipse. Fine. Okay. This sunlight, because this moon, because so that reflections, it reflects, moon reflects the light of the sun. This sunlight is what? Okay. Moon to shine, the light of the sun make the moon to shine, and when earth comes in between, so this is blocked. This is called lunar eclipse. Instead light hitting the moon surface, earth's shadow fall on the moon because earth comes in between the sun and the moon. Okay. This is an eclipse of the moon or a lunar eclipse. Lunar eclipse can occur only on the full moon day, which is called Purnima or full moon day. Okay. A lunar eclipse can be seen from Earth at night. There are two types of lunar eclipse, and the solar eclipse occur on the new moon day. Fine. Amavas, as it is called. One is Purnami, other is Amavas. Okay. The total lunar eclipse occur when the moon and the sun are on the exact opposite side of the earth. Although the moon is in earth's shadow, some light reaches the moon. The sunlight passes through earth's atmosphere, which filters out most of the blue light. This makes the moon appear red to the people on earth because so the sunlight never reaches the moon because the earth comes in between the sun and the moon. So these things we read in the school days. In partial lunar eclipse, a partial lunar eclipse happens when the part of the moon enter Earth shadow in a particular eclipse, in a partial eclipse, Earth shadow appears very dark on the side of the moon facing the Earth. What people see from Earth during a partial lunar eclipse depends on how the Sun, Earth, and the Moon align. A lunar eclipse usually lasts for a few hours. At least two partial lunar eclipses happen every year, but total lunar eclipses are rare. It is safe to look at a lunar eclipse but not a solar eclipse. Solar eclipse is dangerous for the eye. Okay, if you look at the naked eye, the solar eclipse is dangerous, but one can see the lunar eclipse. Fine. Is there any harm in the solar eclipse? There is no direct hazard or any harm from the solar eclipse. It is perfectly harmless to step outdoors, consume food and water during the eclipse. So, but in our mythology, or normally we avoid being exposed to the sun and the moon during the eclipses. But it has not been scientifically established. Science say there is no harm in this. Fine. Use of certified solar filters or eclipse goggles are recommended while viewing the sun during the eclipse. During solar eclipse, it is advised to use filters or eclipse goggles. Experts warn against looking at the sun with naked eyes or through binoculars or telescopes without filters, as this can prove harmful to one's vision during solar eclipse, not on lunar eclipse. Fine. The safest way to view the eclipse is by indirect projection method, which can be easily done by projecting the sun's disk onto a white paper, either using a telescope or a pinhole camera. So that is reflected to a paper and one can see through the paper. This is the safest method to see an eclipse, especially solar eclipse. And lunar eclipse is not at all harmful, so one can see it without any risk. Fine. Recently, there is a controversy when the eclipse took place that astronomers say restrictions should be there. Okay, the scientific community, they objected to this. The rationalists say no, it is nothing like that. No control on food, movement, etc. Controversy was raised, but science says there is no harm in taking food, moving outside during the solar eclipse, but it is not advisable to look at the sun in naked eyes during the solar eclipse. Right. Moving to the next, Alamania multiflora, a frail-looking plant spotted on the granite hillocks of Palakkad, has been identified as a new species of the genus Almania. It is from the botany, biological science. It is an annual herb that grows to a height of about 60 centimeters. Almania multiflora is only the second species of this genus identified so far anywhere. The discovery has come 188 years after the genus and the first species were discovered by botanists. It is distinct from Almania nodiflora, which so far has been accepted as the lone Almania species. And this Almania nudiflora was there, and Almania multiflora are discovered just recently. So one more species added in this genus. Of the first species was Almania nudiflora, which known as the Almania nodiflora. It is first species, and the Almania multiflora became the second species in this genus. This is the first one. Fine. It's a great discovery in 188 years. Okay. The first species Almania nodiflora is originally published under the genus Celosia nodiflora in 1753. Specimen found in Ceylon, Sri Lanka, were first described as Almania nodiflora in 1834. Almania multiflora is currently known only from new locations. Given its small population, the researchers have assessed it as a critical endangered by the IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature. International Union for Conservation of Nature. Sir. Sir, କାଲିକେ ବୋର୍ଡ ଚେଞ୍ଜ କରିବି କେତେ ସେଇ ପିଲାମାନଙ୍କର ଅଛନ୍ତି ତ sir କାଲି ଟିକେ ନୋଟ୍ସ ଆପଣ କାଲି ସାର୍ ରଖି ଦିଅନ୍ତୁ ଦରକାର ଦେଇ ସାର୍ ନେକ୍ସଟ ଯୋଉ ହବ ସାର୍ ମଣ୍ଡେ ଯୋଉଟା କମ୍ପ୍ଲିଟ୍ କରିବି ସାର୍ ନା ସାର୍ କାଲି ରଖିଦେବା ପୁଣି ନେକ୍ସଟ ୱିକ୍ ବି କରିବି କାଲି ସାର୍ ରଖିଦେବା ପୁଣି ନେକ୍ସଟ ୱିକ୍ ବି ଗଲା ଆପଣ ଗାଡ଼ି ପ୍ରୋସେସିଂ ଗଲା ହବ ତାହେଲେ ସାର୍ କାଲି ଆପଣ ଆସିଯାବେ କାଲି ଆପଣ ଆସିଯାବେ ତ ଆପଣ କରିଦେବା ରଖିବେ କରିଦେଲେ ମୁଁ ସରିଲା ପରେ ଏଠି ରଖୁନି ଆପଣ ଶନିବାର କରିଦେବେ କାଲି ଆସିଯାବେ Okay. Almania multiflora is currently known only from few locations. Given its small population, the researchers have asserted it as a critically endangered in the International Union for Conservation of Nature (IUCN) red list. So IUCN is an international union for conservation of nature which publishes the list of endangered and threatened species and extinct species. And in this IUCN list, this is in the red list as an endangered species. The stem is red to violet at the base of the green above. It is found at height ranging between 1000 to 1250 meters high in the altitude. Fine. The new species is an added value to the botanical region stock in our country. Okay. Discovered after 188 years. After the first species was discovered. Okay. The next news is about the economic electronic gold receipt. Okay, about the electronic gold receipt. What it is? Electronic gold receipt. The Bombay Stock Exchange has received approval from the Security and Exchange Board of India, SEBI, the capital market regulator. So SEBI acts as the capital market regulator in India. Security and Exchange Board of India acts as the capital market regulator. Fine. And BSE, the oldest stock exchange in India, established in the pre-independence period, got approval from SEBI for its electronic gold receipt (EGR), India's first spot physical gold exchange product. What it is? It is India's first spot physical gold exchange. Fine. In India, electronic gold trading happens through gold derivatives or gold exchange traded funds on stock exchanges. EGR is the first spot physical gold exchange trading product. Which one? EGR. EGR stands for electronic gold receipt. In the Union Budget 21-22, the government announced the setting up of a SEBI regulated gold spot exchange. It was declared in the 1921-22 budget. Then in September 18th, 2021, SEBI introduced two new investment instruments, namely EGR and Silver ETF, Electronic Exchange. Fine. One is gold, one is on silver. Fine. Exchange Traded Fund. EGR is Electronic Gold Receipt. Silver ETF, Exchange Traded Fund. Fine. One on gold, the other on silver. EGRs are depository gold receipts traded on the stock exchanges. They are held in demat account, just like shares. As the shares are held in the demat account, similarly, the EGR are held in the demat accounts. EGR are held in the demat accounts. For EGR, the physical gold is sourced through imports, accredited domestic refineries, or designated delivery centers. The buyer could convert the physical gold into EGR by depositing the yellow metals at the designated delivery center. After the gold is secured, a depository receipt is created for trading on the Bombay Stock Exchange. For example, a buyer can sell the EGR or convert it into physical gold as per the requirement. So this is a gold depository receipt. Fine. Okay. The next news is when RBI steps in to monitor a bank, because RBI being the central bank in the country has the power and mandate to regulate the banks, and this is the news because recently RBI placed the Dhanlakshmi Bank under the tight monitoring system. The three based private banks financial position come under greater public scrutiny, so the RBI placed the Thrissur based Dhanlakshmi Bank under tight monitoring. Okay. Dhanlakshmi Bank's capital to risk weighted asset CRAR dropped to around 13%, promoting the RBI to take stock of the financial health of the bank. Under Basel III norms, banks are supposed to maintain their CRAR at 9% or above. The RBI moved to increase its weightage oversight on the bank is seen as a response to the deterioration in the bank's capital adequacy. At the Dhanlakshmi Bank's capital adequacy ratio, okay, has been on a deteriorating path. So RBI moved to increase its oversight on Dhanlaxmi Bank. Fine. The bank has even been placed under the prompt corrective action PCA framework, as it is called. The bank having highest amount of NPA and unable to maintain the capital adequacy ratio are put on the PCA framework, prompt corrective action framework, by the RBI to deal with serious deterioration in its financial position. Under the PCA, the RBI places restrictions on lending by the troubled banks and keep a close eye on them until their financial position improves sufficiently. The banks under financial unviability are placed under the PCA framework or prompt corrective action framework. And the banks coming under the PCA framework are restricted from giving loans or high value loans, from recruitment in large number, in expanding branches, etc. Because so it has been exposed that so they are unable to manage their finance properly. Okay. Then what is capital adequacy ratio so important for the banks? Capital adequacy ratio is an indicator of the bank to survive as a going business entity in case it suffers significant loss on its loan book. A bank cannot continue to operate if the total value of its asset drops below the total value of its liabilities. Fine. What are the bank's assets? Bank assets are the loans. Okay. So, you see the total value of its assets, that means loans, drops below the total value of its liability and the deposits. Okay. It will wipe out its capital and render the bank insolvent. That means the loan given by the banks are less than the deposit it has taken. That means it is unable to manage its fund, so that's why it is unable to lend money to the market. So loans are the asset for the banks and deposits are the liability for the bank. That means under the circumstances, the bank has accepted more deposits but is unable to disburse loan. That means it don't have the fund to provide loan. So that means its funds are mismanaged. So it don't have the funds for providing loans. This is a very critical situation for the bank. That is why under the circumstances, the banks have brought under the PCA framework. Fine. And this happened earlier regarding many banks, even many public sector banks, they are able to overcome it. And recently, as a proactive measure, the RBI has taken this on the Dhanlaxmi Bank, which is a private sector bank. So banking regulations such as the Basel III norms try to closely monitor changes in the capital adequacy of banks in order to prevent major bank failures which could have a severe impact on the wider economy. The capital position of a bank should not be confused with cash held by a bank in its vault to make good on its commitment to depositors. Okay. Capital position of bank should not be confused with the cash held by the bank in its vault, but by the cash given as loan by the bank. Because keeping the cash in its own reserve will not make the bank financially viable because it has to pay interest on the deposits. So deposits are liability. If a bank receives deposits and keep the amount in its own vault when giving as loan, so it is not going to be financially viable. Okay. The capital portion of bank should not be confused with the cash held by the bank vault to make good on its commitment to depositors. The capital to risk adequacy ratio CRAR, which is a ratio that compares the value of a bank's capital or net worth against the value of its various assets, means loans, weighted according to how risky each asset is used to guess the risk of insolvency faced by a bank. How much loan it has given and what is the risk of each and every assets. Okay, that means each and every loans given by the banks. Based on that, it is normally assessed. Fine. The causes this caused the capital adequacy ratio of the bank to drop, thus signaling a risk of insolvency during crisis. In other words, the capital to risk asset. Okay, try to guess the risk posed to the solvency of the bank by the quality or riskiness of the assets of the bank's balance sheet because it has given the loans which are very riskful. Okay, this is why this is a news regarding the privately owned Dhanlaxmi Bank, which was recently brought under the RBI regulation because it became financially unviable. Okay, as it became financially unviable, so it was put under risk. Okay, as it was made financially unviable. Fine. Then the next topic will be on the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act license. Okay. The Minister of Home Affairs has cancelled the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act license of Rajiv Gandhi Foundation and Rajiv Gandhi Charitable Trust. Okay. Organized as the Gandhi family for alleged violation of the law recently, because the Union Home Ministry has taken action against two frontline organization. Okay. 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 So, what this? Okay. So the how did this foreign current contribution regulation act, and why did the purpose? The FCRA was enacted in the emergency with the aim of curbing foreign entity from pumping money into organizations in India for achieving their own aims during the emergency. The law has been amended over the years, such as in 2020, and the government is now able to extend tighter control and scrutiny over the receipt and utilization of the foreign funds by NGOs. NGOs in India are able to access foreign fund. Okay, so and they get this under the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. Okay, NGO receive it and some NGO misuse it. Broadly, the FCRA requires every person or NGO seeking to receive foreign donation to be registered under the Act, to open a bank account for the receipt of the foreign fund in the State Bank of India, Delhi, and utilize those funds only for the purpose for which they have been received and as stipulated in the Act. Because the funds come from outside the country, they must be spent for the purpose for which it has come. Okay, so that is what it must be. Okay, spent for the purpose for which it has come from a foreign country, because many NGOs misuse that fund. Okay, many NGOs they misuse this foreign money they received. Okay, and this has led the present government to take stringent measures against them. And in this light, the two frontal organizations linked with the Gandhi family have been their registration has been cancelled. Okay, they are also required to file annual returns. They are required to file annual returns. Okay, and they must not transfer the funds to another NGO. Okay, so they must file annual return, and as per the mandate, they should not hand over the fund they receive from the foreign countries, okay, to any other organization or any other NGOs. Fine, they have to keep that fund, or they should spend it for their activity for which it has been given to them. They should not hand it over to another organization or another NGO. Fine. The Act prohibits the receipt of foreign fund by candidates except under some particular circumstances which require declarations. The prohibitions are for election journalists or newspapers and media broadcast companies, judges and government servants, members of the legislature and political parties and their office bearers, and organizations of political nature. They cannot receive funds under this Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. There is a prohibition on them, because so they are not empowered by the Act to receive the fund. Fine. Cancellation of the FCRA license can be over multiple grounds, such as if the opinion of the central government is necessary in the public interest to cancel the certificate, or if an inquiry finds a false statement in this application, whether it is what it is the funds have been received in which way or not, or whether they have given a false statement on this. The ministry also has the power to suspend the NGO's registration for 180 days pending inquiry and can seize its funds if it is misused. If this fund is misused, okay, then the ministry may suspend the registration of that particular NGO which has received this fund. Fine. It can be cancelled. No issue on that. It can be cancelled. The government, if it want, it can cancel it. Fine. NGO that want to receive foreign fund must apply online in the prescribed format with the required documents. The FCR registrations are granted to individuals or associations that have definite cultural, economic, educational, religious, and social programs. Okay, so who can receive it? It can be received by individuals or association of NGOs who are involved in cultural, economic, educational, religious, and social programs in the country. If they are involved in such activity or are engaged in such activity, they can receive the fund under the Foreign Regulation Contribution Act. Okay, so that they are mandated to receive it. Okay, they are mandated to receive it if they are engaged in such activities. Okay, then in this slide, moving further, following the application, the Ministry of Home Affairs inquire through the Intelligence Bureau into the antecedents of the applicants and accordingly process the application. The Ministry of Home Affairs required to approve or reject the application within 90 days, following which it is expected to inform the NGO of the reason for the same. Once granted, the FCR registration is valid for 5 years. Means up to 5 years, the organization is entitled to receive funds from abroad. NGOs are expected to apply for renewal within 6 months of the date of expiry of registration. In case of failure to apply for renewal, the registration is deemed to have expired and it will be applied afresh. Okay. So once the license is given, the permission is given, the registration is done, that remain valid for 5 years. Okay, and after 5 years, it can apply for renewal of the license. Okay. The government reserves the right to cancel the FCR registrations of any NGO if it finds it to be in violation of the Act. Government has the right. Once the registration of an NGO is cancelled, it is not eligible for registration for 3 years. Okay. If it is cancelled due to some reason, so for coming 3 years, it is not allowed to re-register itself. All orders of the government can be challenged in the High Court. Fine. If the government give an order on this, it can be challenged in the High Court. Fine. Then coming to the discussion on the long question answer. Why is public-private partnership (PPP) required infrastructure projects in the country. Examine the role of PPP model in the development and redevelopment railway station in India. Recently, government is on a massive railway station modernization. Okay. Okay. Then government is redeveloping country. Okay. So public-private partnership are a mechanism for government to procure and implement public infrastructure and service using the resources and export to the private sector. So public assets are being redeveloped using private resources and expertise. Government is developing countries face the challenge to meet the growing demand for better infrastructure like services. Introduction of PPP will help in providing better infrastructure services through improved operational efficiency. Fine. That is why government is involved in the private sector in infrastructure development. What the government was doing earlier, because the demand for them is growing and government is not in a position to fulfill the demand of all the customers. The funding available and capacity public sector to implement project on the time remain limited. Partnership with the private sector is an attractive alternative to increase and improve the supply of infrastructure services. PPP are beneficial in supplementing limited public sector capacities to meet the growing demand for infrastructure development. It will develop local private sector through joint ventures with large firms in areas such as civil works, electrical works, facilities management, security services, cleaning services, maintenance services, etc. The long-term value for money is extracted through appropriate risk transfer to the private sector over the life of the project from construction to operations. Fine. And this is why the government is involving the private sector in these new projects. Fine. So NGO that want to receive. Okay. Hmm. Government in developing country face many challenges. Okay. The funding available and capacity of public sector to implement projects on time remains limited. Partnership with the private sector is an attractive alternative to improve the supply of infrastructure services. PPP are beneficial in supplementing the limited public sector capacity to meet the growing demand for infrastructure development. It will develop local private sector through joint ventures with large firms in areas such as civil works, electrical works, facility management, security maintenance services. The long-term value for money is extracted through appropriate risk transfer to the private sector over the life of the project from construction to operation. Right. Role of PPP model in development railway stations in India. Right now, Government of India is developing railway stations in the PPP mode. The station redevelopment comprises two components. Mandatory station redevelopment. It makes smooth and hassle-free travel. Station state commercial development. It will enable to tap several revenue streams to ensure the viability of the entire project. That means more and more value-added services provided from the stations utilizing public, that private money. The Government of India pursuing for reforms in railway infrastructure with the help of PPP. The first station redeveloped through PPP process to Gandhinagar in Gujarat. Other stations will be developed such as New Delhi, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Terminus in Mumbai and many more including in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. It is the plan of the government for the future because government want to redevelop the stations involving the private sectors. The responsibility of the train operational safety certification rests with the Indian Railway. PPP offer the public sector potential cost, quality and scale advantages in achieving infrastructure service targets. Niti Aayog strategy for New India at 75 envisages many targets in railway infrastructure like increasing the speed of the infrastructure from present 7 km day to 19 km per day railway line construction, 100% electrification on broad gauge track by 2023. These are the two main targets which have been taken by the government, and list other railway infrastructure development are being done in India involving the private sectors, and that will in two way help. Government will be able to arrange fund, government through involving the private sector. More and more facility will be created for the customers, and that will definitely benefit both the customers and the government will be able to generate revenue. Fine. Then moving to the MCQs. Consider the following statement about the solar eclipse. It is a natural event that takes place on Earth when the Earth moves into the orbit between Moon and the Sun. Earth moves between Moon and Sun. This is not correct. Fine. Because in a solar eclipse, okay, it is the Moon that moves in between, okay, the Earth and the Sun. Fine. It happens at new moon days. No. So normally this is okay. Okay. It happens on the new moon days. Solar eclipse occur on the new moon days, and lunar eclipse occur on the full moon days. Fine. So that means only 2 is the right option. So here the answer is B. So right option is 2 only. This is the right option. Fine. Then moving to the next question. Question number 2. Because the following statement, capital adequacy ratio is the amount that banks have to maintain in the form of their own fund to offset the loss that banks incur if the account holders fail to repay dues. Okay. So share decided by the each individual banks. No, it is decided by the RBI. So here only one is the correct answer, that is A, because the CAR is not decided by individual banks, but it is decided by the RBI. So question number 2, the right answer is okay. So only one, because the 2 is wrong, not by it is by the RBI. Fine. Then coming to the next question, question number 3. With reference to the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, consider the following statement. Foreign funding of persons in India is regulated under the FCRA Act and implemented by the Minister of Home Affairs. Fine. So this is right. Under the Act, organizations taking foreign contribution are required to register themselves every 5 years. Is the fact that permission given, registration given, remain valid for 5 years. So both 1 and 2 are correct. So right answer will be C. To question number 3, it will be C. Fine. Then question number 4, the next one. Question number 4. Okay. Consider the following statement about the prompt corrective action, or PC. It is meant to assess, monitor, control, and take corrective action on banks which are weak and troubled. Okay. So done. This is right. Okay. A company put on PC is bad from trading on exchanges. Yes, it is also. So both are correct. So both 1 and 2 are correct. So answer is C. Question number 4. The right answer is C, because both are correct. Fine. Then moving further to question number 5. Fine. Okay. Question number 5. A lunar eclipse can only happen at the phase of a new moon. Lunar eclipse on full moon, not on new moon. Okay. So one is wrong. Solar eclipse took place on new moon, but lunar eclipse on not new moon, it is the full moon. Solar eclipse can only happen at the phase of the full moon. It is on the new moon. Fine. So 1 and 2 are incorrect. During the solar lunar eclipse, sun, earth and the moon are in a Siggy position. That's right. Okay. That means only 3 is correct. So option is C. Then going to the next question. Question number 6. With reference to the recently discovered species, Albania, consider the following statement and choose the correct one. Critically endangered amphibian from Western Ghat, it's not an amphibian. Okay. Vulnerable mammal from Western Ghat, wrong. Annual herb, that is critically endangered, is a herb. Okay. Answer is she. Then question number 7. Term like 9 dash line. Okay. In the demarcation line between China and South China Sea. 9 dash line demarcates China from South China Sea. So answer is she. Then 8. Kittur Ushchav. Kittur Ushchav is observed in Karnataka. Okay. It's in Karnataka. Kittur Ushchav is observed in Karnataka. Okay. Then going to question number, the next question. Question number 9. Fine. With reference to gold exchange in India, consider the following. India is the world's second largest gold importer. Right? Yes. After China, India is the second largest. A gold spot exchange can address the dependent on physical gold and minimize market inefficiencies. Okay. So both 1 and 2 are correct. So answer is C. So this question, the right answer is C. Then the last question, question number 10. The term pillars of creation recently seen in news refers to which of the following? UNESCO recognized World Heritage Site? No. A famous painting by Pablo Picasso? No. A newly minted blockchain-based cryptocurrency? No. Spectacular trunk of interstellar gas and dust. It is known as the pillars of creation. So answer is question number 10. It is D in the right answer. So students, keep on watching regularly. Today we have finished it. So watch every day to update yourself on the recent developments. So try to know the questions on the long answer pattern and the MCQ based on the developments. Thank you for watching.